wait for it. There's a rabbit sanctuary, right, which is an understandable thing.
So it wasn't about sexual vibrators. I'm a little bit disappointed.
And they've been under attack from the critical social justice activists, particularly the trans ones.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. And this episode's amazing guest, long-term friend of mine, extremely funny, extremely intelligent, extremely informative. You're going to love this one. But first of all, Barry, welcome to this show.
Nick, it's so good to see you again.
Well, thank you for coming back on the show. The reason I've asked you on today is I've heard a rumor you know something about rabbits. Now, when I use the word rabbits, I always think of female sexual vibrators called the Rabbit. Have you been purchasing them?
No, I can't think of anything that would ever be further from my thought than a female vibrator. Really, I can't. But we do have a rather interesting story about rabbits, in that there's a rabbit. Wait for it. There's a rabbit sanctuary, right, which is an understandable thing, right, where people look after rabbits. Rabbits are a loved species, and it's called Carrot Cottage. Let me get that absolutely right, just to make sure that I'm on the right track. It's called Carrot Cottage Rabbit Rescue. So they rescue rabbits like people would rescue dogs. Now, Carrot Cottage Rabbit Rescue is a small concern, I think, run by what seems a nice little cheerful chap and his wife. And they've been under attack from the critical social justice activists, particularly the trans ones, right? Because they retweeted somebody that said something they didn't like. And they've gone after them with absolute severity. Now, I came across this. This is how nuts they are. I came across this, right? And it said, oh, this small group of rabbit persons looking after rabbits has been attacked by the TRIs. And my God, it was so vicious, Nick. We know what they can be like. It was utterly vicious. So me thinking, right, let's get this out there. I retweeted it saying, Watership Down, you've read the book, you've seen the film, now try the stew, right? So I just sent that out there in the world, and boom, off it went. Other people had also tweeted it with far bigger followings than I, but James Dreyfus has retweeted it, the actor, as you remember, from Gimme Gimme Gimme, and the support, everybody rallied round this rabbit charity, which I think is a wonderful little story of how they were attacked by some rancid trans rights person or some rancid LGBTQ person, and suddenly their followers started going up and people were donating to them. And that started, and then they were starting to tell the story of what the donations had enabled them to do, to buy bigger cages, to buy more resources, to grow the provision that they provide to the rabbits. Next thing you know, there's another couple of rabbit charities appear, and we've got a whole rabbit revolution going on. But it's a good example of how, when they try to do something, the opposite happens, I think, which is a lovely little story, really, that idea. But they went so far that they started reporting them to the Charities Commission for hate.
Oh, they do this all the time. They report me all the time to the awards, because I've got an MBE. They report me to every day. I get an email, a Photoshop of someone have just pressed the send button for that. They report people all the time to Charity Commission. But let's go to the heart of this story. We've got a couple here who spend their life, their time, their energy looking after animals. Personally, I don't care about animals, but even I know, as a cold-hearted person, even I know they're lovely people if they're spending their time on that. And if people like that can mistakenly cross a line and then be treated like the Gestapo, like Nazis, like the most evil people in the world, then that's how mental the other side is. Some people on that side, absolutely mental. And they've picked on them, knowing they're nice, knowing they're kind and compassionate, knowing you're not going to put up much of a fight here because you're going to be too weak and it's going to make me look fantastic. But they didn't count on the backlash. And that sort of backlash, I believe, is called the Barbra Streisand effect.
That's right. It is the Barbra Streisand. It's just, I think it's a lovely story because it means that their income's gone up, that they're able to help more animals. So, in other words, all it did was help them. And what's great is watching everybody else rally round and going, up yours, I'm going to send them a tenner. I think it's just, this is real good public-spirited stuff, I think. And that's why I thought it was worth telling you about it, because I couldn't believe it was on your radar. And then I thought, Rabbits. Yeah, that's not going to be on Nick's radar.
No, I mean, I've been away for 4 days, so I've been limited what I've been looking at. So that one's gone under the radar completely. But you're right. If people see people struggling that being attacked, you need to do what you can. If you can't afford to send any money, then retweet, send them a message. Because when I got cancelled, all those things mattered. People contacted me going, I'm glad you said that. I agree with you. Keep going. All those little things mean something, because when you're in the middle of that crap storm, it feels like you're on your own. It feels like the world's against you. You don't realize that they're not even 1% of the population. The 1% of the 1% who are that nasty. So send people love, send people compliments, and that's great. Nice little story. So it wasn't about sexual vibrators. I'm a little bit disappointed. I thought you were going to tell me
this is a heterosexual feeling. I'm not sure where you go.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to cut this conversation short there, and I'm gonna move on.
Let's remember. I'm going to send you the links so you can put links in the description for everybody. All right.
So all these stories, everything will be in the description of the video, so you can have a look at these things yourself. What's going on with the civil service? Yeah, go on.
This is frankly extraordinary. I used to work for the civil service as a sort of visiting trainer come consultant type thing. And that was some years ago. But I remembered that the introduction of something called unconscious bias training happened while I was there. And somebody sent me the unconscious bias training pack from the Civil Service Learning that was introduced 14 years ago. I've done an article on X, again, I'll send you all the links, right? But I read it and I went, oh my God, it's right there. This is to me ground zero, right? In that the unconscious bias training that they produced essentially told them to second guess everything. So now and I know, as we've both been involved in the world of safeguarding in various different ways, that the first rule of safeguarding is trust your instincts. Ask the question, because if you don't ask the question, safeguarding can't kick in. And safeguarding is something you do just to make sure and to be, the people, whoever they may be, are safe. In this document, in this one session, which I remember the civil service saying only specialist trainers could actually do, is microaggressions. The fact that you've got unconscious bias that means you're a racist or whatever it may be. One of the slides on the first slide has got a bloke in a dress. This is 2014. And in essence, what the training session does is it tells you that you must constantly second guess yourself because of your own unconscious bias. And that undoes safeguarding, surely.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you a scenario of that I can make up off the top of my head. So I'm in this is all made up. I'm in my old job, safeguarding children, and my instincts kick in that, I don't like the way that gay man is acting with those children. I'm probably homophobic. I need to go away and think about how I perceive. Nothing to do with him being gay. It was to do with, my spider senses when I don't, and and in that role, that should have been reported. Again, I'm making all this up. This is just what I'm making up on the spot. This didn't happen. But that's what that sort of training does. It also, you'll see black people and you'll go, are they going to rob that old woman? And then you go, that's because I'm racist. So it stops you acting on your instincts. And sometimes your instincts are based on prejudice, are based on those things. But when it comes to safeguarding, I used to tell my staff all the time, when it comes to safeguarding, if you make a mistake, it's my mistake. And I will take all the flack for you making a mistake, because I would rather you make the mistake and upset somebody because they really weren't a safeguarding risk. I'll take that responsibility, because the alternative is we're stood in a coroner's court having to explain why we allowed that child to be murdered when you had a feeling things weren't right. I'll take the complaint, please, rather than stood in the coroner's court.
Absolutely. I mean, it's fundamental. I've always said all along, safeguarding is the primary framework through which to view anybody's involvement in trans and, when children are involved. And I suppose this takes us nicely on to the other thing I wanted to talk to you about today, which was the reaction by Manchester City Council to a report that I sent.
My old employers.
Your old employers, yeah. And Manchester City Council safeguarding Now, this isn't just one safeguarding. This is the conglomerate. They come together, don't they, in like a multi-agency approach. I wrote to them, and they wrote back. This is going back around about the same time as this year, but this was for last year, after what I saw happen at Manchester Pride with the two girls on the stage at the vigil. So I've got a blog about this which people can look at. I've got a link with the download to the report and also to their response. But it's their response that I want to draw particular attention to, because I think that that's the important bit, particularly off the back of what you've just said. So I suppose what I would like to do really is ask you whether or not you find this sentence problematic. I hate that word because it's one of theirs, isn't it? I hate it. But here we go. I'll read it out and you tell me.
Yeah.
This is at the bottom of the page of the letter. The full letter is available in the link. As we are sure you will appreciate, the focus and efforts of Manchester Safeguarding Partnership and its constituent members is to be focused on the actions we set out to reduce inequality and advance equality, rather than returning to the matters with you again.
Well, when it comes to safeguarding, equality has nothing to do with safeguarding. Safeguarding is to stop the future abuse of children. Equality, equity, kind, compassionate, pink, fluffy, stopping genocide, none of that matters. It's about protecting children. That's an horrendous statement. That actually shows they're politically captured.
It's quite extraordinary. And when we tie it back to the problems with the civil service from that 2014 training session, over 115,000 people were put through that.
Yeah.
115,000. And then it was, right, out it goes. I absolutely think that councils will have done this type of training. But not only that, that's a total disregard for their main purpose. Their main purpose is to safeguard. They're saying their main purpose is equality, diversity, and inclusion. It's an utterly extraordinary statement.
Let me tell you what that means. That means they've now arrested far too many trans paedophiles. We can't arrest any more trans paedophiles. We're going to have to start arresting some Catholic paedophiles because we need to balance out these numbers. We can't arrest any more Asian grooming gang members because that makes us look like we're racist. That's where this equality nonsense gets us. I don't care if every single paedophile Manchester police arrest happens to look like me, be a white, straight, old man. If they arrest 100% of people like that and they all get convicted, I will clap, because that's how it should be. Equality lets lucky pedos off the hook because they happen to tick a different box.
It's really interesting because when it's equity, I think we need to be very careful about this one, because you and I are both exponents of equality of opportunity. We're both exponents of that. So it's equity. It's the flattening of everything. And I think there's a march going on with a group in, I think it's Dewsbury possibly, set up by one of the sisters of the men that was involved in the Pakistani rape gangs, saying that this is racism. This is EDI. It's EDI incarnate. And until we recognise as a society that EDI must be expunged and we must pull up its roots and salt the earth, then we're not going to get anywhere, because this kind of cultural and moral relativism is utterly disgusting in my mind. And for Manchester Safeguarding Partnership, not just one organisation, but all of them, for them to say that their focus is on EDI and that their focus is not on safeguarding children or, vulnerable people, I find utterly gobsmacking.
Well, if you find that gobsmacking, let me tell you this, which you've probably seen in the paper. Greater Manchester Police have been trying to get information off Manchester Council about suspected grooming gang members and what the council knew and did, because Manchester Police now are under it again because they failed tens of thousands of children. So they're trying to save their jobs, and they've requested all this information off Manchester Council. And Manchester Council have sent heavily redacted information to the police. So redacted that some pages are 98% redacted. And for people who don't know what redacted means, that means blacked out. That means on some pages, 98% of the page you can't read. And that's sending it to the police about grooming gangs. And the reason why is because Manchester Council probably see the persecution of Pakistani heritage grooming gang members as Islamophobic, as racist, and they're backing that up probably by that line you just read from the safeguarding board.
Yeah, it's utterly extraordinary. And I mean, of course, this ties in with the government's work on this ridiculous notion of Islamophobia and the fact that they've got a working party that is trying to define what it is. I mean, the original definition, which I put up the other day from 2018, should chill everyone to the bone. This is a constant assault on free speech as well as anything else. But in addition to that, it really is a matter of us understanding that EDI is at the root of all this. EDI is at the root of all of it, and that is in fact what's causing the problem. And it's very difficult for some people because they think, oh, EDI, it's got to be a good thing. It is not. There is no point ever at which it's a good thing. It is equity driven. It is the mutated child of political correctness, which came straight out of Soviet Russia. So I think, although it sounds tin hat, in fact, when I wrote the article, I think I've got a picture at the bottom of me with a tinfoil hat on. It makes you sound like a nut job, right? An absolute insane nut job. But just go and dig. Have a look at my report, see what I asked for, see what their response is. Go and find out what's going on with this, because people need to know that there's something terribly wrong, and it's all interconnected. It's all. No, the reason that the Rabbit charity got in trouble was because it retweeted something against the priestly class. That's what it did. And therefore, all the minions then descend and go for Rabbit. So we've gone from rabbits to safeguarding to Islamophobia. That's quite a session for you and I feel.
It is. Let's end on this. If you live in Manchester and you've got children, your children are more at risk today than they used to be, because the protectors we pay for out of our taxes to help protect our children, they are now more at risk because the people we pay to protect our children are not doing their job at a competent level. And the people who will pay for this are our babies, our children.
Absolutely right. And it's across multiple domains, Nick. It's not like it's the one particular element of the safeguarding framework for the council. It's across domains. And parents need to wise up to this stuff, and they need to wise up quick. You know what I'd say? Come and be a warrior teacher. Get your head around it all. That's what I'd say.
Exactly. So if you like that, go in the description. You can join Barry's online course. The Warrior Teacher Program is excellent. You'll understand a lot more about this. It will give you the confidence to start challenging some of this in your life, at your kids' school, at the office, with your friends. It's not going to turn you into the opposite version of the nutcase we're dealing with, but it'll give you the information and it will give you the confidence for you to be able to stick up for yourself. And that must be a good thing.
Absolutely.
Bobby, thank you so much for coming along, and I'll catch up with you again soon.
Thank you very much, Nick. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.